going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Greetings and welcome to the Anadromist. This is Burn Power, coming to you from Tbilisi, Georgia. Find that on a map. Look for the Vaca area. That's where I live. On a wonderful night, actually. I was just out there walking around, and the weather is perfect for me. Not too cold. Actually, in Alaska, we would have called this a summer day. Yeah, great stuff. So what I'm going to do tonight is a bit of an experiment. You may remember a couple of years back, I showed you a room that I had been painting. A very strange room. I'll show you a couple photos of it in a minute here. And I have this philosophy about painting and about rooms that we need to recolonize them, because we've been colonized by all the sterility of modern architectural design, particularly interior design. You know, they want to sell us all these nice objects and such, but nothing that has that human touch. And I said, well, I have an idea. What if I take this thing I've been working with for a while and put it on AI? That is, say, try to create it through AI. And so I did. Now, I hate AI. AI is not going to change the world in the way we hope. It is awfully stupid, and did not understand my request to create an abstract expressionist Victorian room. So I had to break it down. I'm showing you about 20, 25 images here. This took 4 hours to find these images within the AI. That is, say, to create them out of, because what I'm doing is something AI has no conception of. There are no other photos of this. And I had to convince it not to just put paintings on the wall. That's not what I was talking about. But eventually I did, and I'll talk more about them in a moment and show you some of my experiments. But before I do, okay, just a word. If you are interested at all in the second gathering in Georgia, you should have watched the last video. If you didn't, stop now, go back and watch it. It's pretty short. Then get in touch with me at reckoningmotions at yahoo.com, link below, before the end of the month. I am trying to decide if I should do it. It takes interest from you for me to decide. Also, don't forget the book on puppetry. Just received a great little email review from Michael. He said it's a pretty fascinating little book with little plays, especially the last one, which he thought was a very interesting, kind of meaningful satire. Anyway, puppet book and a gathering in Georgia. Do you want to come? Really think about it. Let me just remind you, this channel needs your love. And it needs it as soon as you can show it love. So subscribe to the channel. Need more subscribers. I'm getting closer to 3,000. The last, from 2000 till now, it's just been like pulling teeth without any painkiller. It's just, as far as like the numbers just slowly dribble in. Subscribe, like, share, the usual. Help the algorithm find me. Although I think I'm on the algorithm's, shall we say, skip list. They pay attention more at the beginning of a video than they do later. So later I would say shit list. But anyway, yeah, so let's get into it. Let's look at this weird experiment I made and see if there's anything worth thinking about there. And you let me know. This may not be your cup of tea. Perfectly willing to admit that. But let me know what you think. How would you solve the problem of having no texture on the walls of most houses? Okay, let's start looking at these. We'll start with what many people consider to be this, middle-class dream. The all-white room. And it's living in this clean space. Interestingly enough, this image here has the cheapest table and the cheapest chairs. And that couch is cheap. And everything in here is cheap because white makes everything seem clean. Until, of course, it doesn't, because white attracts dirt and filth more than anything. Here's a place so that to control the white, you have a bit of blue and black, set it off. Those are still really cheap chairs and a cheap table. It's probably made out of plastic. Even if it's made out of some sort of iron alloy, it is still cheap. Here's the bedroom. Gauzy curtains, light coming in, no sign of life whatsoever. And this is actually some sort of studio Airbnb type situation. So you got the bit of cooking and cleaning stuff at the same time right across from the bed. More cheap furniture. It's amazing how cheap this stuff is. It's all IKEA. IKEA. How do you say it? And here's one that looks slightly lived in. There's the big screen, as Job called it, the Netflix box, and the ironic sign. Apart from that, this is dead space. And here is a photo I found of a young woman sitting in her room, soaking up. Look at that view outside of the bad backsides of buildings. I mean, is that something to get excited about? I guess you have the experience of being above things. That's nice. But again, look at those tables. Cheap. It's just like, look at, the couches just all scream like they've got a 5-year lifespan before they're done, and they'll look really terrible by then. But that's the world we're given. We're given the illusion of this clean, pristine existence. A couple flowers in there because they're really the only thing that gives us any meaning. Oh, here's one. This has it all. Dead space, flat screen television, AI woman. I created this with a few prompts because this is the life they want for us. They want us to be dead as the woman in this image. So I have been thinking about the problem of the dead white walls, since I moved into this one suburban place where we had a Christian commune in the suburbs of the eastern side of Petaluma. And I remember just thinking, this is just, dead. Now, that place today would seem like a monument to texture. It had the terrible, textured ceilings and stuff. That was an attempt to do something, but what a failure. And if you've ever had to clean one of those and scrape all that garbage off, that's a nightmare. So, in New York City, I moved into this one apartment and I just said, I got to do something. I kind of played with my living spaces ever since the 70s, but this was the beginning of the 90s. And this is actually 3 photos here. It's not one big photo, although the entire room looked like this. And this shows you basically 2 walls, and from different angles. At this point, I dubbed this Abstract Expressionist Victorian. Abstract Expressionism, whatever's going on the walls there, and Victorian because of the molding. You have this. So basically what you had is this expressionistic idea, but being contained. Well, one of the things I used to tell my New York friends is that I thought abstract expressionism is interesting. I don't think it's that interesting as art, but I think you could use the principles and make them as wall texture. Now, of course, If you've ever seen a Jackson Pollock up close, you'll know that's much too thick and chaotic to do that. But I thought some of the principles here were interesting. Now, somebody would try to sell one of these walls if I could get it apart as a work of art. And sadly, when I moved from this apartment, the woman who took it over, I was subletting from her, and she told me I had to go because the place she was subletting from had to get rid of her. It's a New York story. But she came in and immediately was freaked out by all this stuff and painted it all over everything white. But the truth is, whenever anyone came into that apartment, they were impressed. And one of the reasons it has an odd texture is that I used both oil-based paints and water-based paints to get those strange streaking effects. And then I just opened bottles of model paint, plastic paint for models, and just literally threw them over. Then, of course, I painted the molding after that. So here is more of the close-up from one of those photos, and you can see more of the textures. Now, this whole big piece of wood that's there, that was covered up by my record shelves, and actually the piece of wood made a good anchor for them. And this here, now of course, someone with a less fertile imagination than mine would see this as like, oh my God, you've got blood on the walls or something, to which the answer is, well, no, it's called paint. And have you ever been to the museum and seen a Jackson Pollock? You'll know where some of my inspiration came from. And I really liked this. This was one of my favorite rooms ever until I created the new one here in Georgia. And so I took these concepts. I did another one in Alaska, which I think those photos are back in Alaska still. I brought my photo albums, but I have all these other photos I didn't use in the albums there, and I should rescue them before they get corroded with too much humidity. But this is my room here in Georgia. Now, I've had people walk in and just be stunned. You never know what they're thinking, but here's the point. That is the point. What are you thinking? It's making you think. It's causing you to ask questions. For instance, why is that blue stuff on the ceiling, and what's it doing? There are sections of the wall there that are the old Soviet wallpaper, which was like stenciled on. And all the paint you see on the walls was hand painted. There's no roller action going on in this room whatsoever. So it really is a work of art. This is looking the other way towards the entrance. There's my bed. And it more or less still looks like this, although I've got a big cabinet now on that side wall opposite the record player, the old Victrola type phonograph player. So there's a bit more shelving in there now. And it will keep expanding. It's a pretty big room. But I like the feel of the room. And I had someone come in the other day and just said, the more I look at this room, the more I like it. And I said, that is the point. And the point is that it gives you something to think about. Now, I am absolutely positive there are people who would look at this and go like, oh my God, I could never live in a room like this. And I'm not asking anyone to live in a room like this. What I'm doing is I'm saying, here is a room that I made for me. It is one of a kind. The next room I do will not be nearly this crazy because it's going to have shelving up by the time it's done. I haven't decided whether it's going to be maroon walls or kind of dark, almost purple maroon walls or brown maroon walls. And then it'll have a light blue ceiling, mostly just one color. It's not going to be crazy like this one. But it'll fit the general feeling of this. So, I started putting my requests, my prompts, into the AI. And now, if you really blow this up, it's not going to look that good because they weren't that big of images. And I didn't want to pay for huge images. These don't really count to me as images. However, After enough prompts, and you will see one or two of these images that have actual abstract expressionist paintings on the wall, because it so did not understand the idea. I had to keep saying, I mean, if I was to just tell you how many images I looked to get these few that I'm showing you, you'd be really surprised. Because, like I say, AI is an idiot tool. It borrows, it steals, but here's the thing. It couldn't steal from anything to make these, because I don't think these exist. So look at the wall. It's got the same concept of texture through paint that I did on my other walls. But of course, it looks totally different. I purposely am showing you this one to start because it looks like the kind of room a person would walk into and say, yeah, I could live here. This is really interesting. Because it's not really dark on the walls. It hasn't got too many reds and such like that, or blues. And the ceiling is white. Should make you feel at home until you get to this one. Now we got, this is almost like a sunshine effect. But look at this. Wood floors. You've got the trim painted, and what in the world is going on with that one window? That is not a human window, although it would be interesting as a doorway to somewhere else. And then you've got, again, it's giving me a white ceiling. It doesn't know. Eventually I conned it into giving me what I wanted on the ceiling too. But this gives you a good idea. Okay, imagine now you've got your couches or bed or whatever, and now it looks kind of sunny on top. Not all these are going to look this sunny, believe me. This one almost looks like a Monet painting in his last phase when he was doing the water lilies and stuff like that. And it even gave me an abstract expressionist rug here. I could see someone, feel free to borrow my idea, because this isn't about making money for me. This is about telling you there's more you can do that you haven't thought about. You live in a dead space. The world is becoming a dead place for you. So this has the molding, it has the white ceiling and everything. Again, entry level to my concept. But let's do it again. Okay. So now we've got this kind of, fuchsia on the walls. And but look at the textures, and look at, when we get to the ceiling, you start to get the idea of what I'm doing with ceilings here as well. But again, it's taking this, in a sense, the chaos of the abstract expressionism and putting it inside the order of the Victorian to give you that sense of life, because we messy humans don't fit into solid white spaces. In fact, there's a thing called white torture or something that is actually something that is done to prisoners. You just put them in an entirely white room with no features, and they just go insane. Here we have another one of these, shall we call them gateway rooms. This one's a little more intense. It looks like someone blowing ink in the Japanese manner across the walls, and a little bit more yellow and black. But let's see what's next. Ooh, now this is getting a little more intense. It still isn't giving me too much on the ceiling, which I really want. But this is still within the framework. Now, I'm not a big fan of the molding, and in fact, what I was telling the idiot AI was give me oak. This is not oak. I basically kept the same prompts over and over, changed a word now and then. It doesn't understand. What I'm doing is I'm completely outside. It has nothing to feed on but abstract expressionist paintings and Victorian rooms. And this is what it's giving me. But nevertheless, if I walked into someone's house and it looked like this, I would be pretty impressed. Now, this might be a little dark for some people, but hey, it's much more human than a white room. And look at this one. Now here, you've got the abstract expressionist painting on the wall showing you the stupidity of doing such a thing. And you've got what's going on. There's that Persian abstract rug there. But I really like this orange with the white. Now, as you know, I'm not a big fan of white ceilings. But if I walked into a house like this, I could excuse the white ceiling. This has real texture and character. What we're looking for is lives with character. What we're being given by the property developers and the real estate agents and the art schools and everything is something very different. They will take that painting and put that on a white wall and say, ooh, it's art. To which I'm going like, no, take that off. The rest of the wall behind it is the art. And that's what we want. Here's another subtle one. I'm just noticing how many times it did not give me a abstract expressionist ceiling, probably because I didn't mention the word ceiling that often. These things are dumb. But again, imagine this room, this room with the couch of your choice and whatnot. It's just a very interesting place, which is what my goal was. Now this one is quite interesting. It just threw the bed in. I didn't ask for it. Would I sleep on the bed? Yeah, it's not bad. It's a better, actually, that's better looking furniture than what we were seeing in the real life stuff at the beginning. And so, yeah. But, here we have, again, now this might be a bit busy for some people, but for me, I would love to live in this. And I would love to hang real works of art on it as well, or keep it as it is. Okay, here's a more of a close-up. This one wasn't really successful, and one thing, I decided to keep it in to say, you can go way overboard on this. And in fact, the average person is not going to want the kind of thing I would do. The average person is going to want something a little gentler, but nevertheless, this isn't bad. If I walked into someone's house and there was a couch in front of that, I would say, oh, that's really interesting. Why did you do that? What is, it looks like, I don't know, shafts of wheat with little birds or something flying over it. It suggests things. And it has, what makes it more human than so many other decorations is that the way the paint has been literally thrown across it, it follows the flow of the universe. That is to say, it's following the way things go. Here's another just section. This gives you an idea. It almost feels like a crack there, which is cool, or blown ink across a page. And there you've got some actual kind of wood-looking stuff as part of the molding, which is what I really wanted. And here's another one. This one, again, not very successful, but interesting in the sense that if this was in my room and there was white paint on a kind of a mint green wall like this, kind of spread out, I'd find it interesting, but it does look too much like a crack or plaster on the wall. So here's another one. Look at this. You've got this real rich autumnal quality to this. And again, it really likes those kind of lines that are like that. It makes me want to experiment more with rooms. And be my guest. If you ever experiment with a room, send me the image, and if I get enough people doing it, we'll just do a whole thing like this. Now we're getting to what I'm really wanting. Look at the ceiling. Look at the wood. In between the wood is indeed more of what's on the walls, but subtler. And this one, this would be nearly perfect as far as my own aesthetics go. If I walked into a house and said, you're going to buy this, I would never change these walls because they are beautiful. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for things that see, the thing is, you're sitting in a bed or laying in a bed, you're sitting on a couch or a chair, you're sitting at a table, maybe you're sitting at a table in the corner looking out the window, and your eye drifts from the window to the walls, and you can find endless patterns in that, just like nature. And here we have, this almost looks like you've walked into a museum. That big splotch of red does things, doesn't it? It really attracts your attention. But, that's okay. This looks like a room to go from one place to another. Or maybe it's a bedroom. What would you want it to be? Tell me, as we're going through here, which ones you find the most interesting, if you do. Or if you tell me, you can just write one of those things, I could never live in such a place. Yeah, feel free to do that. People somehow feel obligated to say those kind of comments, whereas my feeling is if you feel like that, I don't actually need to hear it. But if you find these interesting, I do need to hear that. And this one's really subtle. So you have this blue with green. Again, it's a bit too white on the ceiling for me, but this is wonderful. And what an odd shape of the room. But nevertheless, I find this interesting. Again, took me hundreds of images to find a few I like. This one's way intense. And this feels like more of a hallway or something walking through. But it's got the wood framing and the molding, and the trim is good. And this one, you got to have a pretty psychedelic mind for this one. This one could almost be called abstract expressionist psychedelic Victorian, which psychedelic and Victorian aren't that far apart because they're related through things like Art Nouveau. But might be a bit much for you, but boy, this isn't all just Burns muddy colors. Some of these are really bright, like this one. This is just, this would fit someone with a really loud personality, or someone who's quiet, who in their mind it looks like this. But I find this fascinating. And you can say, well, Baron, that's too red. I wouldn't want to live here. Well, you can't live in any of these because this is all AI. No one could possibly live in any of these places. But it gives you ideas, and that's what I'm doing. I'm saying our sterility and our white walls are creating dead people who only look at screens. We need to change that. We need to have some other things to look at, some textures, some colors. So I really like this one because you've got things like growing on the walls and things on the ceiling as well. That's a lot of character. This would be a nice room for me, although it's still got the white. And then this one, this is like, actually I remember some people in the 1970s who were painting whole rooms like the blue and the magenta and the red and the orange like this. Now having a room just those colors is kind of oppressive, but I think this is kind of interesting. This one is fascinating because hey, you spilled something on the floor. But it's fascinating because as we tilt up and look, you'll find that there's subtle stuff going on up above. Now, this is a really small room. You could put one small bed in here and live here. Be a nice room in someone's Airbnb. But, yeah. Now, this one I really find fascinating. And it's got character. If you like darker things, if you want a more classic wood type feel, this one here, I mean, if I walked into a place that was full of dark brown oaks and woods and mahoganies and stuff and saw that on the back wall, I'd say this is a pretty perfect place. Now this is, no one's going to want to live here. This is an art experiment, as all these are. So this is the opposite of the really friendly ones. This is the really dark ones. But there's a part of me that's, if I was in that room, I'd love it. It's certainly, I wouldn't want to live in that room. It'd have to have a blue ceiling, wouldn't it? Okay, now this one is really fascinating. It's a hallway. So you're not going to live here, but as a place to walk from one place to another, if I had a control of a large institute or a school or something, and they had all these, what kills me today is people will paint white over the trim, over the molding. And I'm going like, no, it's there to stand out, not to be covered over. And people used to use a lot more wallpaper. In Georgia, people use wallpaper, but it's terrible plastic stuff, and I'm trying to get rid of all of it I can, but it takes quite a while to get it off, which is what's preventing me from moving quickly to the next room. But here, you look, and the abstract expressionist part is on the walls, and there's something even going on in the ceiling. This is very subtle, but wow, this is classy stuff. Likewise, this is, we're starting to get into something that really feels like a Victorian mansion or something. But look at the walls, and you see the subtle textures going on. Now, this is too dark for most people, the grays and such, but that's okay. This is obviously a walking space, or, it's not supposed to be a living room necessarily. Okay, back to color. Yeah. Talk about bright yellow. Yeah. Talk about bright yellow. Now, for some people, they want brightness. Maybe this is you. The furniture seems good. It seems like solid old oak furniture. I don't know what's going on with the door there. I mean, that's not human. But here is another look at another room. Well, I would say this is just what the AI fed me. But it's got an interesting thing. I don't like the white on that ceiling. It just doesn't work. It's because there's no molding making the transition into the white, as you find in a lot of the other places. And here's a real subtle one. The walls actually have more than one color, and the ceiling is just beautiful. It feels like you're looking into a pool in the ocean or something. I would love to have this room as a place to just sit back on my bed early in the morning, look up, and just kind of drift off into the ocean. And here's one more, little too much light blue in the bottom, but another interesting room. You can put a couch in front of that one. Here's what a human being looks like. I asked it to create a human being, so that's not a human being. That is obviously an AI person with a wall behind her that is not the white wall. It is a completely unique wall. You'll never see another wall like that because of the nature of this whole experiment. But I thought you'd like to see these because the whole point of this is to create spaces for human beings, not for sterile objects like you find in a museum. And in fact, that is where our white walls come from. They come from the Bauhaus architectural movement. They come from people in museums saying it was too crowded here with all the paintings, so let's just put one against a white wall and sell it for lots of money. But the truth is, we're not supposed to live with just white sterility. We need texture. I hope you found that interesting. I did. And, the thing you can do with AI, I don't think you can use it to actually create art. You can use it to give you a sense of creating something that you can't make on your own. It's not about art. Like I found I can make really crazy looking creatures and humans with this thing. But I would never make a movie out of AI. I would use the weird images I conjured up to make a horror film or something, to give me ideas. It's more of a sketchbook or a notebook than it is anything real. So anyway, what did you think? Let me know. I want to hear from you. And it was for me an interesting experiment, which is why I'm sharing it with you. Well, thanks for coming along. Remember, subscribe, hit the like button, do whatever you can to cause the algorithm, which seems to hate my guts, to find me. Help me get to 3,000. Remember, you can buy a book of my puppet plays, support the channel for $25, you get the book and such. As we say in Georgia, droibit, which means temporarily. We will meet again.
A people without history is not redeemed from time. For history is a pattern of timeless moments.